they're about to walk away.
Okay.
So,
Cool.
yeah.
Sounds good.
And then an ECG update.
Good morning, and welcome to the Ad Hoc Committee on Economic Recovery and Reinvestment meeting for Friday, July 16th, 2010. We're here in John Frau Council Chambers in room 340 of City Hall. It's myself and Councilmember Alarcon, so we're still awaiting a quorum. If Councilmembers Parks and Rosendahl and Wesson will make their way, that would be great. And with that, let's go ahead and get our general update, starting with number one. Good morning.
Good morning. Jim Clark, Director of Federal Relations in the Mayor's Office, and I'm joined by Stacy Sosa with the CAO's office. We just completed the fourth quarterly OMB reporting period that ended as of Wednesday, and I'm pleased to report that, again, we had 100% participation by our departments, our prime recipients on meeting the deadline for OMB reporting. And I wanted to give a particular shout out to the three people who are involved in working on that. Stacy here to my right, and also Anna Mae Uten, our project manager, and Cammie Fong, our grants manager, also, who make sure that happens so that we're in compliance. There's not much of a change that has gone on in terms of, Stacy will report a little bit on some details on some of the dollars and the awards that we've gotten. The only recent thing is that on July 1st, LA RICS submitted a proposal for $172 million for a BTOP 2 grant, Broadband Technology Opportunity Program grant. We were hoping that they would be able to be here today. They had a schedule conflict, but we'll have them come in 2 weeks. I think it's a very good program that they've got, asking for $172 million, and we hope to have that for you as well. In checking the recovery.gov website, I noticed, again, in terms of the federal government posts the amount of money that they've given out in the various categories and how the funds are actually being paid out based on invoices they're receiving. And in the area that we most focus on, the area of contracts, grants, and loans, that appears to continue to be lagging, with $275 billion was award or available in funding, and they've paid out $122 billion, which is 44% of the money has been paid out. So it appears as though
That's contract reimbursement?
Well, those are for reimbursements for contracts, grants, and for loans. And so those would be the pool of money that would basically go to states and to local governments, school districts, those kinds of things. Gotcha. So it appears as though those are lagging at 44%. The tax benefits at 56% payout, and entitlements at 60% payout. So it appears as though it has been a bit slow, and probably a bit slow for us in terms of getting our programs up and running and invoicing them, but it's something that's happening across the United States. It's not just a Los Angeles phenomenon as well, too.
Okay. And those mirror our percentages roughly as well?
I'm sorry?
Do those mirror our percentages as well?
Well, we'd like to get you some information in the future about how we're doing on our billings in comparison on that, too. Also, just for information on their website, the state of California so far has received $22 billion of funding in the area of contracts, grants, and loans, and have created over 70,000 jobs they're reporting. One of the things that we want to do, though, also, and Stacy was just mentioning this, was to be able to sort of make a comparison between what recovery.gov, the federal, is showing for our projects, what the state is showing on their website, and what we're showing to see, to make sure that those things are being reported accurately.
Because that incorporates our numbers?
Yes, it does.
So it's both the state-provided and local ones that happen to be in the state? Okay.
Right. And that concludes my report.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Good morning. Since our last meeting of ad hoc, no new awards have been received. One application submitted by the Los Angeles Fire Department in the amount of $7.6 million for the staffing for adequate fire and emergency response firefighter project was denied by the grantor. Locally, the County of Los Angeles was awarded $3.5 million for the same grant. I'd also like to highlight some additional changes to the dashboards. Total dollars awarded in the energy and environment category increased by $9.3 million to reflect the addition of DWP's award for the low-income weatherization assistance program, and this was previously discussed at the April 23rd meeting of ad hoc. Total dollars requested in the public services category increased by $171.6 million to reflect the recent grant application submitted by the Mayor's Office of Homeland Security for the Los Angeles Public Safety Broadband Network LA Safety Net project. Total dollars awarded in the transportation/infrastructure category decreased by $1.4 million to reflect the recent deobligation of funds for the RSTP bike safe grading replacement project. And the deobligation is a result of lower contract construction costs being awarded. Also, we've updated our job creation and retention numbers, expenditures, and reimbursements for the month ending May 31st. For the month of May, just over 900 jobs were created or retained with Recovery Act funds. This consists of 418 jobs in the private sector and 487 jobs in the city and public sector. Cumulative expenditures through May 31st have increased by $7.8 million to $71.3 million, and total reimbursements through May 31st have increased by $6.1 million to $55.9 million. And that concludes my presentation.
Can we, I like every time we're getting an update, just you guys as kind of the experts following this money, can you kind of just in plain English give a little bit of a prediction of, we've been awarded $629 million, we've created 900 jobs, not with that, but with about $71.3 million of expenditures. Are we looking at the second half of this calendar year as a huge flood of this money? Are we expecting really in 2011? If you were to say the gap between the, whatever it is, $560 million that's left, the great bulk, when would we be expecting that money to be spent out, just in rough estimates? Just because I think a lot of people out there are, want that information. And can we expect, jobs to be in proportion to what 70 million produced close to 1,000 jobs? Are we looking at, over 10,000 jobs when we spend this money out?
Well, first, on the jobs issue, again, the way the federal government asks for the reporting, it's on a month basis, so it's not a total cumulative. We are planning at the next ad hoc, the CAO's office will have a report that Councilman Rosendahl asked for of what is the cumulative job count. So we need to keep that in mind. The 904 jobs doesn't reflect the $71 million worth of expenditure, just what was for that particular month.
This month, okay.
That's the first thing. The second thing is that we don't anticipate, there are a few grant applications that we have out that we have not heard on, and as I said, we just submitted one for LA RICS for $172 million for that one. But most of those applications have already been submitted, and we're just and we've gotten a determination on them. And we've pretty much brought forward, I think today we're bringing forward the smart grid for council, for your adoption and later for council adoption. So most all of the grant awards that we've been awarded have also been processed through, so that we're at the point now where we're able to spend money. And all of this, as you know, is on a reimbursement basis that we do. So the question is, I think all the projects, for the most part now, are up and running. So I would anticipate that during this next quarter, we will have we'll have a significant increase in numbers because all the projects are up and running and beginning to expend money.
Okay. Great. Is that anything? Or?
I'd agree with Jim. I think we're going to continue to see an increase upwards in jobs for a bit longer as projects really start to get into full swing. So. Okay.
Well, we'll look forward to that cumulative count as well. On the LAFD grant that you mentioned, can you walk us through what thought any of the strengths and weaknesses was, any feedback we got as to why the fire department was rejected?
We don't have any feedback at this time, but we can request that the fire department inquire as to why their application was denied.
We do know that Los Angeles County received $3.5 million under that same grant.
What was the grant specifically?
It's called
Safer.
It's safer. It's something firefighters and rescue equipment.
So it's for capital purchases?
It's a program that's available. Well, they expanded it, so it's not only for equipment, but it would be for instances where you've actually laid off firefighters. And they had to have been laid off within a certain time period, and then you were eligible to hire some of those people back.
Got it. And don't worry about getting FD, and I know you guys have such a huge volume, it's very difficult. But part of the committee and part of the work that I certainly wanted to do was when we do get turned down, not just have anecdotal evidence as to why, and I'm sure you do too, because we want to know who's doing a good job, who's not. It's great that all departments are getting their stuff in on time, but we've seen some of those applications where they're stronger than other ones, where there's misspellings and not, and those sorts of things that do matter. I know it's difficult to get that feedback loop sometimes from Washington, but as much as we can, I think it's important for us to do that, just to make sure as we look at grants in the future outside of our money, for us to know which departments have capacity and which need some work and technical assistance from us.
Along those same lines, though not an ARA grant, we just did hear the past week that we were denied an application for the Urban Circulator grant, which was a streetcar project grant for $25 million from the FTA, and there was a phone conversation that occurred between the Mayor's office and the Assistant Secretary of Transportation and outlined the reasons why. And we've communicated those back to the folks that initiated the grant.
Good. As much as we get those, maybe towards the end of this committee's life, I'd love to have a session maybe just on that, where we can kind of accumulate those stories and also share them with the public so that they can know as well when we've had those sorts of communications as well. Anything on the general updates, Mr. Alacon and Mr. Parks? Mr. Parks, do you have anything on the general update?
One thing I was going to ask on the general update is that, and I think I may have mentioned this before, there's two sources of funds that I want to see if you could identify if they're viable. June Gibson, the CLA's office, is working on a mass notification system for the city, and it seems like it's the item that's continued today, LA Ricks. It's a cousin to that kind of operation, but it's not exactly a fit. And then the other one, we've gotten some good success on green vehicles, particularly transforming our city fleets. But one of the things is a motion floating around about the prospects of some assistance in helping our cab industry convert to hybrid vehicles. And it's just wanted to see if, in your search of all of these grants, whether anything fits into those two areas.
Yes, sir. On that last issue, I know you brought that up at T-Committee, and I've initiated a contact with the Department of Energy, and I have a contact person that's gotten back to me that oversees that type of project, and so I'm in discussion with them about grant opportunities. So I will follow up with you as soon as I hear something definite on that, but I am following on that one. The mass notification system, we have in the past couple of years put in earmark requests and received funding, including the $500,000 of funding that we received for basically a reverse 911 system for mass notification, and we'll continue to put those requests in.
The thing I think what we're going to do, because it is fairly expensive for the city to have its own, so they're working, I hope, in a kind of an interim basis to tie into the counties. But the issue is going to be, as always, it's going to be an annual struggle to say how do you continue the program, and then secondly, whether it gives us the flexibility that we want by tying into their program versus having our own. So that's where we want to kind of look at something that we can put in place and it has some revenue source, as opposed to every year we're struggling to figure out how to continue to maintain it.
Good point, and I'll get together with June Gibson on both of those. Thank you.
Okay, let's then turn to, I guess we'll continue 1A for 2 weeks until the 30th, when we can have the VTOP folks here. And let's go to number 2, please.
Good morning.
How are you?
Great, thank you. Rhonda Gaston from the Community Development Department.
Janet West from the Community Development Department.
And we're here to provide a brief report on the transition of the EECBG grant from the Department of Water and Power to the Community Development Department. Since Council acted early last month to transfer the grant administration activity to CDD, we have facilitated several conversations and correspondence to ensure that we have administrative oversight of the program. DWP has graciously continued to manage the operations and the program side for us until CDD fully comes up to speed and actually has position authorities filled, and our internal capacity is increased in that regard. The report that you have before you actually outlines some of the activity that has been undertaken to date. The Mayor's Office has generated the correspondence necessary for DOE in order for CDD to have control. We've arranged for project managers to meet and to get technical assistance from DOE. I believe there was a one-day training in that regard very recently. CDD has also met with the CAO and other departments, particularly the Controller's Office, to ensure that we have the accounting function set up and a pass-through special revenue fund, if you will, so that we can actually control the dollars and know where the appropriations to other departments are going. And we also have facilitated access for CDD to actually draw down funds from DOE and actually do the monthly and quarterly financial and programmatic reporting. Attached to our report is a status of all of the programs. I understand that there are 14 program areas, including 15 projects. Our next steps will be for CDD to meet with all of the departments individually that have allocations out of this grant and work with them on their budgets and make sure that everybody is on the same page in how CDD will actually administer the grant. And I'll defer to Janet, who can give you a little bit more information on the actual activities that have happened to date.
Right. Hi.
Hi.
Yes, as Rhonda mentioned, we've done a lot of the administrative...
We bring the microphone just a little closer so we can hear you. No problem.
We're primarily trying to get our understanding of the projects ourselves. DWP's been really helpful, and DOE as well. We want to meet with each of the departments so that we think there probably might be budget changes needed or something due to the grant being accepted a different timeline than expected. Maybe with they want to change some funds from this account to another account, and we want to see how we can help facilitate control instructions, anything like that that's needed. And then we would report back to DOE with any of those changes. And so that's our next step, is primarily to meet. I've talked to departments on the phone as well, and we're getting very good support in terms of to get the projects moving is the number one goal.
Absolutely. So in that vein, if you're a homeowner out there, a building owner, a commercial building owner, or even a city employee that has a good municipal building, what sort of timeline do you think is realistic for folks to be able to start saying, look, I would like my home retrofitted, I would like to become energy efficient, and for them to actually be able to get a call back from the city, the capacity up, someone to roll out, and to start assessing whether they're a good site to do this? What's a timeline? I'd like us to try to find one so we can use that and hit that deadline.
If I may, I'd like to ask DWP or Housing or GSD to come to the table to more definitively respond to that.
Come one, come all. We can even decide it together today if we don't have it in mind. I think we've been working just fine. Hot days like this remind us how nice it would be to have that in place, because it's the really hot days and the cooler days where we can get a lot of bang for the buck in terms of money saved for our building owners. But so who wants to give it a stab? Gretchen?
I'll take a stab at this. Gretchen Hardison, Department of Water and Power. The residential retrofit program that the city is looking at participating in is actually being run by Los Angeles County. There has been recent directives from the Federal Housing Financing Authority that puts into question some of the pay styles, some of these tax lien financed retrofit programs. We are working closely with the Department of Energy, as is the County of Los Angeles.
Just stop you one sec. So we're not doing anything through our direct?
For the single-family residential homeowner retrofits, that would be city participation in the county-wide program. The county, being the property tax authority, has the ability to, and is in the process of establishing a voluntary tax lien district for any homeowner who wants to participate in that. So any City of Los Angeles resident will have full authority to participate in that once the City Council adopts a resolution, and that's coming to you on a separate track probably within the next 2 weeks.
So the county's the kind of financing authority, and we're the worker bees?
We are the worker bees, and we are trying to encourage our residents to, those who qualify and are interested, to participate in those programs. So we'll be the funnel,
right.
so to speak.
Okay. Sorry, go ahead.
No problem. There are some questions now with how that tax lien financing will work with mortgages that are financed through Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac. So we and the county and many other jurisdictions are working closely with the Department of Energy to kind of see how that impacts our grant dollars and how these programs can continue to move forward one way or the other. So if there are any changes that we expect to the city residents' eligibility to participate in these programs, we will come back to you with a status report on that. Again, we hope to be able to clarify some of these issues probably within the next couple of weeks.
And if those get clarified, I mean, again, I'm just trying to kind of think through and it doesn't have to be a hard date right now, but I mean, should we be gearing up for really publicizing this through the fall? Should the average LA resident who's interested in this, should we tell them, because we get calls on this all the time and we need to be able to communicate to them as well. Should we say, look, call us in September?
The current timeline is to begin publicity for the program in early September, but to actually roll it out late September, early October.
Okay.
So yes, we should be, and we're working with the county. We've got another meeting next week on the promotional materials and how we can help publicize the program.
Okay.
So yes, fall. A number of programs should be actually starting up in the fall, September, October timeframe.
And can you come and brief us on the publicity plan so we can, see where council offices can help promote that, where we can, come up with ideas with Channel 35 and 36 and county television and other ways of getting that out there? We'd love to hear about that.
That'd be wonderful.
Okay. Yeah, Bill, you want to jump in?
Yeah, I was with Supervisor Zev Yaroslavsky yesterday. We're part of a group, the City of LA is part of a group called the COG on the west side, which is Beverly Hills, West Hollywood, Santa Monica, Culver City, LA County, and LA City. And in our meeting yesterday, Supervisor Yaroslavsky was talking about this, and everybody's excited about it. Do you have any sense of how much opportunity LA City residents will have, how much money we're talking about? How many homes could conceivably be involved in it? Do we have a dollar figure that you think we have access to? What is right now the county and us? How are we talking this through, and how do we feel about it?
My understanding is that the county will be selling bonds to cover the principal amounts of these loans, and that there are no restrictions at this point to divide the countywide pot of money among different jurisdictions. Basically, first come, first serve is my understanding, that as residents are eligible and they learn a little more about it and they decide they want to take on that financing burden, that they will be eligible to do that. So we have no restrictions. We do have a target number of homes that we're hoping to retrofit within the City of Los Angeles, and I'm racking my brain to think of what that is, and I will get that to you.
Well, while you're thinking about it, do you have any sense of what an average homeowner would do? Just now, I know it's July and the publicity will be August, September, by the end it will happen. What is the excitement that should be for a homeowner?
What is I apologize?
The excitement, the reason to get involved, what's the motivating factor?
Well, a number of things. One, this is at the cutting edge of a new wave of whole house retrofits, and this is an opportunity for Los Angeles residents to become involved in that cutting edge strategy. We are hoping, and we're seeing initial evidence that these retrofits, which will include weather sealing and insulation, among other things, changes to the actual physical structure of the home, will add to the home's value. And so even though there will be an additional lien on the home, that will, over time, pay for itself, and that when the home is sold, it will have that added benefit.
Will solar energy be part of that package?
That can be part of the package. The way the state is looking at these retrofit programs is to first accomplish energy efficiency in the home and then go for renewables.
Very good. Well, I'm excited about that. And when you come up with that number you think we should do, you should let me know.
I will.
Because I can tell you, Beverly Hills, West Hollywood, Santa Monica, and Culver City are already moving rather aggressively with Supervisor Yaroslavsky. And, of course, he welcomes L.A. City to do the same. So it's
Wonderful.
important that we do that.
We'll get that to you.
Thank you.
The only worry about, I know we're going to be using our locally controlled dollars for our municipal buildings, but for the residential side, is it correct that we're looking at essentially loans that are through the LEAN program about 9% to residential
I
folks?
believe it's a little bit less than that. The county is still looking at ways to help buy that down. Some of the other things that the county is doing in setting up this program is to work with the utilities to provide incentive packages that will go along with that, so we can reduce costs to homeowners in other ways and get them prepared so that they only have to borrow money for those things that there are no incentives available for, so we can kind of reduce the loan amount. But it's between 8 and 9% at this point. Not yet finalized.
That would be a worry, and I think we are uniquely poised with the Department of Water and Power being able to play a role because the department gets paid for energy efficiency, and it actually is the cheapest way for us to reduce our costs at the Department of Water and Power versus, some of the energy generation, green energy generation. If you look at the cost efficiency, it's much more efficient to look at energy efficiency. My only worry would be on the residential program that you're not going to get a lot of people to sign up for it. That we have state money that's passed through the county sets this up. It's not a cheap loan for a lot of homeowners right now. People can probably get that commercially right now if they want on a home loan. So, given the option of working with government or with a private bank, I think people are usually pretty clear who they prefer to work with. And, unless we have something where we can buy that down, I know that we're going to get some good bang for the buck on our own dollars in our own buildings, but part of this, I think what I've heard from the committee is popular participation in this as well. And I think that's part of the frustration of ARA in general, is people are like, where do I see this in my own neighborhood and in my own area? So if we can give any additional thought to that and communicate that back to the county, it may be one of those things that sounds really good in concept, and then, I'd love to be disproven, or if people give me the opposing argument, but 9% money right now to make your home more energy efficient doesn't seem too compelling to many people. 8 to 9.
And forgive me, there is...
financing. Right. Yep.
Forgive me, there is an additional residential home loan package that the Department of Energy is just beginning to shop, and we have received the initial playbook on that, which would not require necessarily this whole house approach that would include an upfront auditor and then retrofits and then a back-end verification. It would be a much more simplified loan package, and Department of Energy has identified 3 financial institutions nationwide, at least one of which does business in Southern California. So we're trying to get a little more information from them, and we hope to have that in the next few days. And if that looks promising, we think that will bring those costs down for homeowners who want to do some of these retrofits and perhaps not the whole giant home remodel or retrofit. So we're hoping that might assist in making these loan packages available to a broader spectrum of the residents here.
Okay. Mr. Alaka?
On what the actual benefit is to the homeowner. What is the interest rate? 8 to
9%.
8 to 9% is the interest rate on these loans?
At the moment, I don't think that has been finalized yet by the county. The county is still looking to see if there are other grants that they can bring to bear to reduce that.
Okay, and you mentioned this other thing that the federal government, is that going to reduce the interest rate?
It would be a lower interest rate, and I don't have that number yet, but it would be...
Is there anything that DWP can offer that would enhance the package with their, for example, low-income program?
The Department of Water and Power does have a full range of other incentives and rebates, some of which we're expanding through another portion of the Energy Efficiency Block Grant.
DWP has $65 million that ratepayers pay for low-income folks, and I don't believe they're spending $65 million, but they're charging the ratepayers $65 million. So the question is, can they insert some money into this process to lower the interest rates on the homeowners?
I will look into that.
Or enhance the program so that they, in addition to the loan, you get a grant to do weatherization and some other things.
Certainly, the department is rolling out the weatherization, low-income weatherization program, also August-September timeframe of this year, and we are looking at how to present the full range of incentives and rebates so that we can tie them more closely to a residential homeowner and get that package view of what those might be. But I will also ask about anything else that the department can do to help reduce the cost to homeowners.
Yeah, one of the things I would like to, I'm talking to DWP about what they do with that $65 million, so I want to make sure that, and I know there has not been an audit on that $65 million, so I want to ensure that the low-income ratepayers might be enticed. I agree with Mr. Garcetti. Nobody's going to... a 9% or an 8% loan is not attractive when you can probably get 4.5% on a refi. So, and then the fact of the matter is that most of the low income are not homeowners, and so the landlord is not going to refinance at 9 or 8% to benefit a tenant. So we're going to have to sweeten the pot if this program is going to work for LA.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And in terms of the deadlines with the Department of Energy, do we feel like we're on pace? I know they had some very tight deadlines. Are we doing all right with that? Anybody?
I think actually Community Development Department is pulling together a plan to see how we can meet our first expenditure deadline, our costing deadline for end of September. We are working very closely with the Department of Energy. As Ms. Gaston mentioned, Department of Energy is providing quite a bit of technical assistance to help us get our programs up and running and help us push through the next couple of months so that we can show those expenditures.
Okay. Mr. Alco?
Yeah, I would be very interested in looking at discretionary funds and non-discretionary funds in the CRA, in those areas that meet CRA criteria to enhance this opportunity. Has CRA been included in these discussions?
CRA is working on the commercial side of the retrofit program. We have Sandy Padilla from CRA.
I'm interested in both housing and commercial.
Hi, I'm Sandy Padilla from CRA in the Capital Finance Group working on the commercial retrofit program. So we have been
Could you also just move the microphone a little closer?
We have been involved in the process and figuring out how we can leverage, the commercial program is a citywide program, but within our project areas, how we can leverage CRA funding with this EECBG funding for the commercial retrofits.
And housing?
Our program focuses, CRA's allocation of EECBG focuses purely on commercial.
Why not housing?
We can look into that and see how we can leverage our dollars with the residential program, and I can have a conversation with
I think you should, and specifically for my area, I want to look into it. I think there's always an opportunity to reallocate monies that have not been fully utilized, and if we put them into this program, particularly if it's for a specific geographic area, it could probably go a lot further. Thank you.
Yeah, I think we had made the policy decision had been CRA would head up commercial stuff, but in terms of participation in the residential, I think CRA could look at a role in helping out housing department, CDD on that side. Could we get just a general update kind of on both the commercial program and the deadlines, and similar question to what I asked about the residential? If you're a business who is interested, when would you be actually looking at being able to contact the city or the CRA? And third, the internal retrofits of our municipal buildings. Maybe GSD could give us an update on that as well, and what sort of timeline we have.
Okay, so the commercial program is definitely impacted by the recent regulatory letters that came out from FHFA and OCC. And those letters basically gave caution to doing residential PACE programs. So there was no directive that commercial PACE programs were prohibited, but right now, in the past couple of weeks, there's a lot of discussion about what is the future of commercial PACE, given Fannie and Freddie are very concerned about homeowners taking out another encumbrance on their property and putting their mortgage in a second position. So what we're doing for the commercial program is talking to the DOE, talking to all of our technical consultants from DC to figure out how do we best strategize given this climate. And so there has been talk about shifting some residential PACE programs to commercial, so that's an opportunity. I wish I could tell you exactly right now what is the future of commercial PACE. So what we're doing right now is still designing our program, working with the county as they're going through their validation process to establish this program. So we're moving forward as if we would do a program delivery this fall, but the jury is still out as to how this recent these letters from the Federal Housing Finance Authority will impact commercial PACE.
It's a similar timeline when you say fall. I mean, would you be going out in September, beginning to advertise that and look at implementation late September, early
as Gretchen
October?
mentioned, we have a meeting with, they want a specific branding for these programs, so we have a meeting next week to figure out how we're going to roll out with the county the program. So the idea is in the fall is to publicize, and we'd be able to start rolling out the program hopefully later this year.
And it'll be one-stop shop for communication, whether it be residential or commercial, call the same number, call the same...
Exactly. The county wants a program, and they're working with the state, where it's at the state level. You go to a website, you enter your zip code, and then it takes you to a commercial or a residential web page where you can get your information.
Okay. And GSD municipal stuff, or somebody who wants to speak about municipal retrofit? Mr. Alacon.
Where exactly is CRA budgeting this money from? What revenue are they putting into this? You said the citywide program?
Right. So to set up this program, we're using the ECDG dollars that are being allocated to CRA to set up the program.
Which CDBG?
This program that we're discussing, the Energy Efficiency and Conservation Block Grant Program, CRA is allocated a $3 million allocation, and some of those funds are being used to set up this program. So working with the
So currently there are no pre-existing CRA monies being used for this?
No.
Okay, then I would strongly encourage you to work with the council members in their districts where CRA might be able to enhance specific programs in those areas which have been previously designated as areas that are blighted, and could certainly use this kind of infusion, I think.
Right. I mean, CRA also applied for a state energy program grant in the amount of about $4.7 million, which we received. So we're going to leverage those funds with the $3 million here.
Okay, then I would encourage you to work with the council members. I haven't heard anything about it, and I would have appreciated knowing about the opportunities for the 7th Council District, and particularly on the housing side, but also to ensure that we're maximizing the utilization of this program where the interest rates are kind of high. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Municipal retrofit? Anybody?
I don't see anyone here from General Services. I will just let you know that my understanding is that they intend to finalize their priority list of buildings to begin the retrofits. That list, I believe, will be finalized in the next couple of weeks, so they should be moving ahead on that.
Well, I'm sorry that they're not here. They probably should be, but let's get a report from them in 2 weeks then at our next meeting on municipal buildings. And I know, Mr. Weston, you've worked on that considerably as well with Apollo Alliance and other folks. That's the money that finally will get some of those jobs out there through the city buildings. And I'm sorry that they are not here to update us on that. But okay. Any other questions on this one, number 2? Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate the hard work. Number 3, please. Yeah, let's hold 2 in committee pending that second report. Hello again.
Morning again, Gretchen
How you
Hudson,
been?
Department of Water and Power, with my other hat on. Today, the department is here to provide a status update on the Smart Grid project. As you know, this is a $60 million grant from the Department of Energy to investigate and demonstrate several aspects of smart grid technologies. This item is also being scheduled for E2 to complete, to approve an ordinance and finalize payment structure with the department's partners, who are UCLA, USC, and the Jet Propulsion Laboratory. That is under an urgent time-sensitive deadline. We hope to complete that process. That process needs to be completed by the end of July. But I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Ali Marabi to give you the update.
Okay. Good morning.
Good morning. A quick background on the project. The official award was made on 12/31/2009 for $60.2 million, which is 50% of the cost share. So between the LADWP, USC, and UCLA, we are coming up with the other 50% of it. The Smart Grid demonstration project includes 4 different aspects: demand response, electric vehicle integration, cybersecurity, and sociological and behavioral studies. Project is a 5-year timeline beginning January 1, 2010 to December 31, 2014. It includes 4 distinct phases. It's called planning phase, which DOE also uses the word called definitization. It's called, another phase is the design phase, there's a construction phase, and there's a commissioning, testing, and operational phase. And within each phase, they allow a certain amount of money to be dispersed between the partners, DWP, and DOE itself, and then there are certain deliverables that have to be made within those phases for them to release the actual money. Right now, we are in the planning phase or definitization. We expect to definitize by July 31. That would allow approximately $4.8 million of funds between the partners, DWP and DOE. $2.4 million from DOE and the rest between the partners and us. And then we move into the design phase and then construction and commissioning. And within each phase, the resources will be allocated based on the agreement with an approval of the DOE. So when they approve our planning phase, then we can move into the design phase and identify the resources for that. And then once they approve the design, we'll move into the construction with the resources, and then, of course, to commissioning, testing, and operation.
For the uninitiated, in 2 or 3 sentences, what is a smart grid?
My question. Olivia said it's Val Lunger from CAO's office. That was my question. I said, I don't know what you just said. The smart grid is basically taking technology and marrying it with the grid. And that, I don't know if you've read the newspapers, but there was an issue about how to give a tool to the customers to know when they're using what amount of energy. And one example was having technology tell your cell phone how much energy you're using, and then therefore you could know, oh, I'm using too much or more than I wanted to at this point in time, especially during really hot days and you're not home and you know you're using, or you could turn off certain appliances and things like that. Those are the kinds of things. Another thing would be making a meter that would only be for electric vehicle charges as opposed to plugging it into your house.
Right.
So these are technologies that students at UCLA and USC would have more time to research and get into.
So this grant is not to be used at those institutions. These institutions will apply this in various places in the city of Los Angeles that have yet to be determined?
Yes, and that some of the jobs would be created at USC and UCLA and JPL. What's original about this is they can't commit to the number of people that they will be until it is granted. You know, the CAO looked and asked, and they said they couldn't say anything until the MOU was signed. But they're talking about 50 people, 60 people that they might higher as a result of this. And then in terms of DWP, they plan to displace some of those people that might not have had something, would be working under the grant. And that would be anywhere from 134 high times and 58 a low because of the cycle that the research would go. Other things would be testing the response. In other words, you'd put in a certain technology and then you'd test to see if it had any difference in the way people use their energy. And then a lot of things were energy efficiency training surveys. So that's basically, the smart grid would basically give people tools. And so it would integrate into our grid some of those tools. That's what a smart grid is.
Thank you. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Rosendahl if you want to continue your presentation. I'll be back in just a second.
Let me ask you this. There's $70 million that we got from the feds, right?
About 60 million that we will be getting.
Okay, get about 60, and those two institutions will match that.
The breakdown is as such, 60 million from Department of Energy, 40 million from Department of Water and Power, 10 million from USC, and 10 million from UCLA.
Okay, so that's the money breakdown. And what role will then UCLA and USC play in determining the sites and the kinds of smart grids that we do? What role does DWP play with that? Who's in charge of this?
The LADWP is completely in charge. In fact, DOE will only deal with LADWP on this project. And then LADWP will determine the portions that UCLA, USC, and JPL are going to be involved and develop for us, basically.
So you said a 4-year time frame starting 2010, January, and then go until 2014.
Correct.
So do we have sketched out in our mind where we might do this?
Yes. We have a map, in fact, drawn out. We are showing where the equipment and the facilities will be installed throughout the city of Los Angeles, and it's pretty much, we have tried to spread it out and then concentrate on the UCLA, USC, and then there is a site in Chatsworth, the 3 sites where we call them the microgrids, which basically is a representation of a very small portion of the entire LADWP area.
So, in essence, this basically does what for our DWP and our energy? It gives us more redundancy, more energy. What is the goal of this?
If you look at the term smart grid, which really defines differently depending on whom you talk to, but with the Department of Energy, what they are looking for is exactly what you just mentioned. They want to know, can we have the consumers basically become smarter and more efficient on their own? Can we get the utility to become more efficient, therefore we don't have to build as much generation? Can we help the green technology by making use of electric vehicles? And then of course the security aspect, which is we need to make sure the whole grid is secure when we install equipment out there, kind of like what you do with your PC. It opens up into things, so we have to make sure it's secure.
Very good. Mr. Wesson, did you want to comment on this at all? Mr. Parks? Mr. Alarcon?
Yes.
I was just curious, do you have any ideas of where these grids are going to be?
Yes, we have a map. In fact, we can provide that if you like. That kind of shows where...
We don't have it available right now?
Yes, we...
Can you just kind of tell me where the areas are? I'm assuming that you're doing sort of demonstration projects in a variety of categories, in a variety of locations?
Yes.
So maybe you can describe some of them.
What we have, basically, we have in all 15 council districts, we'll be installing equipment. These are things as such...
That's a good start.
Yes. I knew you would.
I knew you'd like that.
There are automated meters, smart meters. These are the meters that go on the homes and businesses. There are smart chargers for electric vehicles.
So this is something that you can apply across the system?
Exactly.
And whether it's commercial, industrial, or residential, what are the categories?
Those are exactly
Those are the 3 categories?
The 3 categories. We're going to go at the industrial, and then commercial and small businesses, multi-family and single-family.
I'm assuming the maximum benefit is in the industrial opportunity. Because is that where the most volatile in terms of the usage?
The more control we will have on the industrial level, but then what will happen ultimately, and that's the hope of the smart grid, that the residentials become very smart, because
But that's the most difficult.
The most,
is the residential.
the most involved.
So, but initially, because industry keeps closer tabs of their usage, it's easier for us to work with them. The residential is all over the map.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
And the other benefit that we get from it is that the Department of Water Power and the city gets the intellectual property that results from this research.
That's very good. It's 10 o'clock, colleagues, council meeting time. We have one public comment card. Mr. Arnold Sachs. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Good morning. Arnold Sachs. I'm sorry I got here a little late, and so I may sound a little ignorant, but that's how I learn things sometimes. But I understood you were discussing with DWP some plans, and I was wondering, it'd be nice to get their plans regarding the failed ballot initiative and the solar initiative part. There was just a story in the newspaper how Lancaster is moving ahead to become the solar city in the state of California with all its solar installations. And I believe part of the plan that DWP put before the voters that failed was to install solar paneling out in Palmdale Airport. And if anything I recollect, Palmdale and Lancaster are very close together. So if Lancaster wants to become the solar city in the country, and DWP has property at Palmdale Airport, doesn't it behoove to have some kind of smart initiative for DWP to put together their solar plan and use that property? I believe that the new head of DWP wants to sell property to balance the budget for DWP. That doesn't make sense either. The only people that want to do that are him and the governor of California. He wants to sell property too. And finally, there was some mention about CRA and its projects, and Councilman Alarcon trying to understand the CRA budget. You did a better opportunity to translate the hieroglyphics. And the CRA, spreading this CRA funding through the districts. Councilman Wesson, you once said that only the poorer districts have CRA. So does that mean that CRA is not located in everybody's council district? And if that's not the case, then what about the districts that don't have CRA? How does this funding that you were talking about, federal funding, get into those districts if they don't have a CRA operation going on? Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. We just need a motion to move forward with the recommendations. Do I have that motion?
Move the CAO recommendation.
Okay. We've moved the CAO's recommendations unanimously by the committee. Thank you for that. Okay. At this point, we're going to adjourn the meeting. Thank you all very much for being here this morning. The Ad Hoc Committee on Economic Recovery and Reinvestment special meeting is now adjourned.
A hate crime has occurred or will occur, you are very much encouraged